and I'm here with my new friend Ariel, and we're talking about money. Dun 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 dun. Money, personal money. So the way Ariel came to work with us on this is I work for a woman named Ali Shanti, also known in the world as Alexis Neely, who really, if you want to find a character in the world to learn about, Ali Shanti is her, because she is really one of the most transparent, vulnerable, real people I've met. And she's a powerhouse mama. She was a lawyer. She hated being a lawyer. She loved being a lawyer. She, built a business. She learned about selling products online, and then she tweaked it. And now I work with her as her CFO in a company called New Law Business Model that helps lawyers enjoy being lawyers. But she's really educating lawyers to be teachers to change the way we deal with conflict in the world. So don't want to sell New Law Business Model, but the point is that she has vision. She has vision. And then because, she doesn't like to be bored, she created this thing called Eyes Wide Open. She's been doing that on the side, which I know less about, which is really about helping people interact and have healthy relationships with their personal money. Mm-hmm. So I was at an offsite with her about 4 weeks ago in Boulder for the company, New Law Business Model. And she's like, I saw your little business mastermind. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I think I should be on it. And I was like, yes, because you're a powerhouse and you're super cool and I think it'd be great. And then we looked at her dates and she had calls and she's like, all right, Ariel's going to do it. So I think we kind of threw you to the fire a little bit with the gig of doing the show. So I want to just welcome you to our mastermind.
Yeah, thanks for naming the throwing into the fire feeling. And I'm really excited to be here and really excited about this topic of money and our personal finances.
Okay, great. So I think we're going to talk just you and me for 5 minutes and then you have a PowerPoint presentation that you'll be discussing the concepts and the ideas. And then you have about 15, 20 minutes of Q&A time. Is that kind of the schedule?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll be watching the chat. So if you have any questions you want to throw in there, I'll be organizing, if you want to, something pops up, and then we'll just kind of improvise this and hopefully it'll go perfectly. Cool. All right. So money. Why are people so fucked up around money?
Woo. I mean, one thing I like to ask is money, what does your body feel like when you even hear the word?
Yeah. You're talking to me?
Everyone here, but you, what is it? What, money, Robert?
Okay. So the question pop in your chat, you answer, when you hear the word money, we did a little prep on this in the group, but when you hear the word money, how does your body feel? To me, it's like my cop buddy, in the movies. It's just like the cop buddy. My money is like my buddy. He's got my back. I got its back. But that's been a long, long trip to get to that point. Before, money was like my father's hammer to hammer me into his viewpoint of who I should be in the world. Literally, my dad interacts money and love. Like he shows love by giving money. He withdraws love. So my dad and I have an interesting relationship about money. So for a long time, I was fucked up around it, but now it's like my partner. So some of the answers, Chris said fear. Sarah said tense and constricted. Amita says a little bit anxious. And Phoenix says arousal with hesitation in trusting that arousal. And then one more, I feel Eva said, I feel the word nourishment on all levels, and so a lack of it fears a lack of nourishment. Oh, that's great. Physically, mentally, emotionally. Tom says thrilled, like a children looking forward to a birthday party. Oh, that's nice.
Good.
And Kat, oh, hey, Kat. Kat says aroused, except more trusting. Kat's your associate on Eyes Wide Open. Samsung Galaxy, my good friend S7, says need to protect.
So a lot comes up. And I mean, one thing I noticed is a lot of the language of the nervous system. The language of, I'm ready to go act and get some money. I'm going to go hunt for it. Or, what if I don't have enough energy? But it's really the language of our nervous system and the language of our survival.
Mm. Okay.
And so this is, I would say, to answer your question, why are we so fucked up about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because money is tied, for better or for worse, to our perception of what resource we have to survive.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we were wired primitively and how we've adapted to live in civilization.
Okay. That makes sense. And so if you're in fear of your survival and you do not have a healthy relationship with money, then you're living that scarcity. And in terms of why we're doing this week is very important, and why we're not just jumping into like a business forecast or marketing, is at the core of it, at the bottom of the pyramid for me in my belief system. And when I consult people, if you do not have your own money handled and try to build your business, you're building on a very shaky foundation. It is uber important to know what your relationship with money is, because you can sabotage, but also what your requirements are, so you don't depend on your business for your survival. It's like having an abusive relationship with a partner. If you don't have a good relationship with money, if that's you depend on your business to help you survive.
And just to kind of add one thing you said, Robert, with like money has become like your partner in crime, or your partner in stopping crime. And I really like that image, because there's two ways that, it kind of shows the way in which we can be in partnership and in a dance and a co-creation with money, as compared to letting money drive the car and drive you somewhere you may or may not actually be happy. And or putting money on the back burner so much that whatever you're doing, you can't even get the car started. If money was kind of a fuel in that sense. So I really like this image of partnership and how we can create like that friendship with it. As compared to being in some kind of either parent-child or villain-victim relationship with it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're taught well in society to handle it, to be partners with money. There's so much connotation on so many different levels with money. And I know, like I said, like I've always middle class. I'm a New York Jew, middle class, upper middle class growing up. And so you'd think like I would have a healthy relationship with it, but no, it was imbued. It was like my parents used it to control me. And so it doesn't matter. Like, and it's funny, this guy, I'm going to bring this guy up again, Gerald Powell, who I just did this interview with, he sold a company for $90 million, his second company, $90 million in cash, and he was suicidal. And he said, I wish everyone could have $90 million for a short period of time to show that money is not the answer to the problem. It can actually cause problems. And so we depend on it. We think once we make it, but I can tell you, I've sabotaged myself after having a bunch of money, and so et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, we're going all these crazy places.
But it's so important to look at the spectrum, because when we're talking about money, we're talking about scarcity and what it's like to not have your needs met or not have all of your needs met to support you.
Right.
But at the same time, we're also talking about the other end of the spectrum, which is the way in which we imbue meaning on money, or a certain expectation for money that it actually won't fulfill.
Right.
Because it's an inside job, not a bank account job.
Ooh, like that. Okay. Why don't you kick off your beautiful presentation? Let's cook.
Cool.
Bye, Daniel. I see you, buddy.
And just to pause for a moment, anybody have any questions thus far or comments?
Any questions or comments, just pop them in the chat and I'll read them for you.
And I was really killing a little time before I've opened my PowerPoint. I promise it's as interesting of a PowerPoint as I can make.
Ava said, great story about being a multimillionaire and that not being fulfilling is a movie called I Am the Doc by Tom Shedyak. All right, great. Would you please put that in the Facebook group? I think that would be great. Thank you. Never heard of that before. All right. Hopefully everyone can see on their screen the slide deck for those who are calling in. This will all be on the Facebook group available. And without further ado, take it away.
Okay. So one thing I want to name before I go into this is that I have chosen to believe that there is a way to be in right alignment with money in a way that is abundant, but also doesn't have to drive the bus. And that, as some people said, like a collaborator, I loved that word, or a partner in crime, partner in solving crime, that money can actually be a way of being in relationship. Being in touch with our personal finances is a way that we can be in relationship to life and to self-authoring our life. And so it's sort of, I see it as sort of the math, can be the math behind what it means to live a full life. And so we're going to go into that today and what that means. And also the math behind what it means to have a business that feels good to run, that you want to run for a long time. So I just wanted to name that before we go in. And I'm hoping that my arrow keys work. Yes, they do. So just to kind of circle back to something I said at the beginning, that stress is related to a perception of our resources. And so something that is sort of collectively encoded, at least I've experienced it, is this never enough relationship to money. That we believe we need 5 million, 10 million, up to 90 million, up to 100 million. And then we find out, lo and behold, the money didn't solve the problem. And so coming back to it, enough, and this idea of what is enough, is both a clarifying that we're going to talk about some today, but it's also an emotional process of learning how to be in enough and trust as compared to fear around money. Uh-oh. Sorry. So, where we at Eyes Wide Open, and this is really, I have Allie to thank for sort of being a mentor to me around this, is that I believe the first step in getting in right alignment with our personal finances is to get clear on what we really, 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 really want. Like full blown what you actually want, deep down, what your soul's calling for, or your heart, or however you experience your inner desire. So we're actually going to pause here for a moment, and in good Boulder tradition, maybe close our eyes.
Oh my God. I was going to stop you and say, let's everyone stop and close our eyes. We're, go ahead. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
you're
no.
amazing.
Amazing. So yeah, we're going to pause here and just take a little moment, give it a little time, energy, and attention to our desires. And so I know all of us here are here because we're here because we care about the business that we're creating. So I invite you right now to find yourself as comfortable as you can in the seat or standing, however you're being right now, or if you're driving, keep your eyes open. And just take a few breaths just to land yourself here in the present moment. Just letting your breath tone your attention into the present moment. I'm going to invite you to do something fun, to use your imagination and bring your mind to maybe 6 months, 1 year in the future, a time period that feels manageable for you to imagine. And I really want you to imagine your dreams coming true in business and in life. What helps me is oftentimes imagining a day in my perfect existence? How would I wake up? What would I be doing? What friends would I talk to? What would I eat? You can get as descriptive as you like. You might even notice what it feels like to be in this projected future, what it feels like in your body, what lights you up, what gives you energy. And I invite you to take one more moment just to take it all in. Take this beauty, this amazingness in. And then take a few breaths to come back into your body and back here in the now. And I'm curious, what was that like to give yourself that moment to really envision what you want? Was it easy? Was it hard? Were you able to get descriptive, or were things blurry? Chat in the box, and hopefully Robert can read some things to me.
I'm on it.
Thank you.
Brenda says, it's clear, easy, and felt amazing. Tracy said, joyful. It felt like freedom. Ava, it felt really easy for me and very peaceful in my body.
Beautiful.
Tom said, easy. It felt like a well-known place. Uma, that was so fun. Thank you. I saw what I want and I love it so much. Oh, that's a nice gift you gave her. Esther, it was extremely challenging. I believe too much that I'm meant to overcome the struggle. Okay, great. Thank you for being honest. Nikki, blurry. I had more feelings of expansion than actual images of things. That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Stephen, my struggle is that I've lost focus on what I want.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris, I could picture fragments of time where I was doing things I want to be doing. It felt spacious and fun.
Awesome. Well, for those of you who would like, if there's anything you want to remember, feel free to take a moment and jot it down or a note to yourself. But I really appreciate everyone's response, and also the range that we're seeing too, and the range that desire can bring up.
There's one more from Jessica. I can see it, I can feel it, and then coming back, I second guess it or find excuses as to why it's just in the mind. Like her mind played a nasty trick on her.
Yeah, really sounds like that self-critic wants to speak up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that voice. I have a hardy self-critic, hard to kill. But yeah, I'm really appreciating the range, and the way in which we can, some of us, again, it's like money. It's like we can attach ourselves so potently to what is in our vision of the future that if something else happens, it throws us off.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, sometimes we lose track of ourselves. We lose track of ourselves through relationships, through jobs, through business. And we can even lose track of what we want. And so there's those two ends of the spectrum. And I like to think of desire as a compass, the arrow that's pointing in the direction. So this brings me to my next slide, which is this amazing meme that started floating around like a year ago or something. And it's this space between discipline and surrender. And I think this this perfectly sums up the energetic of setting goals and setting financial goals. It's like the part of us that can envision and own the life that we really want and own that as our authentic expression of self through lifestyle design is an incredible part of us that can actually discipline through intention and through action. And at the same time, life throws us curveballs. Life is unpredictable. Life can be way better than you'd ever expect it to be. And that's the surrender piece. The surrender to what wants to show up in your life that you could have never predicted. And I wonder for all of us here, how many times have you thought something was going to go some way and it went way better than you ever expected? Maybe chat 1 in the box if that's true for you.
I think the word surrender is really important, that you're bringing up, because I was trained to think surrender is bad.
Mm.
Like surrender, like no retreat, no surrender, death before dishonor, all these really cheesy 80 movies that I, formed
Yeah.
me. But to, my experience of really interacting with women, interacting with the feminine, interacting with my own sexuality, interacting with plant medicine, surrender is the most important thing.
Oh my God, yeah.
So important.
And it really is like this beautiful, because I was thinking a lot of what was brought up in the last call here was about the energy of risk, and the risks that we take to be in business, and the risks that we take to build a business, and the risks that we take to grow a business. Mm. And I really love this idea. And I know for me, when I drop it into my body, it feels so true that about 50% of it is me showing up and doing the work, doing the math. And 50% is trust. Mm. And when both show up together, that's where I notice I like this word a lot, I'll just use it. That's where I notice the alchemy happens. Mm-hmm. And the new thing gets created.
Chris wrote, a man, on surrender, my conditioning is such that I should be in control. That's how I ensure safety. That is, I think, a lot in our culture. And we speak a lot about vigilance center, that part of your brain that's always looking for a bear, always looking for a mountain tiger. And, in the old days, that was true. And now what is it? It's someone sticking a knife in your back, or someone taking something from you, some jealous person doing X, Y, and Z. There's a new form of maintaining that control for our safety.
Yeah. And it just something that's coming to mind, a live that I did this morning was about that vigilance center. And it's interesting because we're actually wired to bias to that vigilance center. It's like our nervous system tends towards seeing the bad, seeing the things that could be out to get us. And that really represents about 10% of what could happen, the bad things that might happen. So we've got 90% of awesome things or neutral things that could happen also. So we're going to move on to the next slide. So one of the pieces that come out of the Eyes Wide Open work around relationship to money is looking at the ways in which we can actually be connected to our structure around money and our structure around finances. Structure boils down to the legal structure of your business, your taxes and how you prepare for taxes, the way in which you understand what your profit and loss will be each month, what's flowing in, what's flowing out, the way in which you strategize forward about the growth of your business and what you need. These are ways in which we can create structure underneath us so that we actually communicate to ourselves that we got this, we're grounded, we're okay, and we can be our highest creative selves. So I really love this both and, because it's like not getting lost in the structure, but using the structure to harness your flow and harness your creative potential, to me is one of the things that most excites me about getting in right alignment with money and personal finances.
Obviously I'm a big fan of this, and because we think we can do without the containers. And I watch this guy Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you know him.
I love Jordan Peterson.
I'm on the fence myself.
There's certain things I love more than
others. Yeah, he's fascinating. Anyway, he was getting this woman reporter was trying to kill him, and he was like a ninja. And then, but he's very data driven, which I like about him. Yes. Very even keeled, very data driven. And the woman was like, why can't we have more feminine based businesses and women in charge and blah, blah, blah. Just, really, a good topic, but the way she was approaching it. And he said really flat out, he's like, I don't know if that would work or not, but there's no data to support that it does. So he's very even keeled in the possibility of very feminine structure, but he was saying the data shows that finding that balance between the masculine and feminine is so important. And so it really struck me in that piece of like, yes, to have the containers so your feminine can get bigger. That's the point. It's like your feminine is deeply wanted and welcome and powerful, but without a container in it, it's just all over the place.
Yeah.
So to up-level the feminine, up-level the masculine, up-level the feminine, up-level the masculine, it's the dance or the marriage. That's the power.
Mm. Oh, I love that you brought that in, the archetypes of the masculine, feminine here. And Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
He's a really, really deep thinker.
He is.
So who here, I'm just curious, what are people's relationships like to having some financial structure in your life, and even checking your, anything from checking your bank account to preparing for taxes? I just love to hear from like a few people. What's this like right now for you? Is this easy? Is this hard? Are you a master at it? Is this a challenge point for you?
Nikki says, ostrich, head in sand. That's such a perfect image. Amita, I hope I'm saying that right. Lacking structure. Sarah says, I'm with Nikki. There's a crew of ostriches. Stage left.
It doesn't exist.
It'll all be okay. Don't worry.
Until October when you have to pay your taxes.
Tracy said, all structure is a challenge, but I'm currently using a spreadsheet to track my finances.
Amazing.
Yeah, good start. Jessica, really good at budgeting and budgeting and budgeting and budgeting. So I know when I'm spending my last penny. That's her laughs, by the way. I have the need to protect, but also everything costs. Oh, that's great. I love that. Esther, joining the ostrich crew, but I want to get up on my throne. Kat, finding structure, and for the first time in my life, actually feeling excited to do so. Stephen, I know I've not got enough, so how not enough is not relevant. Okay. Tom, I have gone into surrendering mode for years after too much structure in mind, but now I see I need to find my way back to more structure again. Chris, I'm very organized with the structures that I already do have. I file everything and can find it all. I struggle with knowing what additional structures I need outside the 9-to-5 corporate workforce needs. One more, Brenda says, not that much masculine structure in my finances, but my masculine is having more of a say, which feels really good.
Thank you all for sharing. I'm just, again, reflecting on the way in which we're sort of faced with a lot of paradoxes in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when we get out of balance in one end of the continuum or the other, when we become overly focused on structure or sort of overly loose and just putting our head in the sand, just sort of racking up credit debt or whatever it is that we're sort of just spending down on. But that, there is this really kind of like middle point or happy medium, or maybe the coming together of two energies that seem to be what really can help people create financial flow, which is what I would say a lot of us would love to have, is that liberation where you have the money to spend on the things that really matter to you in life. Which could be anything from getting your hair blown out to a major surgery. And I say hair blown out because it's like my therapy.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Kidding.
It for women who have long, thick hair, it gets very tangly. It's really nice to have someone do your hair every now and again. And it's actually very relevant to the conversation, because I've learned how to own that that's something that helps me exist more creatively in the world. And I don't judge myself about it. I consider it to be one of my needs to be of highest service. So I just want to give that as an example, and it's different for everyone. So we'll move to the next slide. So here's some juiciness. We're going to talk about our resources. We're actually going to add 3 new resources in: time, energy, and attention. And this is one of the, again, kind of shout out to Allie, one of the things she really learned to master in her own journey of entrepreneurialism and becoming a badass CEO, and really blending the masculine and the feminine in how she works. And one of the key pieces here is that the way that we're trained, or the way that we're conditioned, is often to look at money like something limited, that we have to constantly be stacking up against a limited amount, that there's not enough, and we have to spend as though there's not enough. But that time, energy, and attention is something that we tend to sort of give away for the sake of money, when actually, in one respect, and in, I can get a little multidimensional here, but in one respect, time, energy, and attention are limited. We only have 24 hours in the day, and maybe 16 waking hours, and then maybe 4 to 10 working hours. I don't know. People have different amounts of time that they like to work, to build what we want to build. And so how we spend our time, energy, and attention is one of the most important conversations around personal finances. And so this is one of those things where, and then one other interesting piece here too, is that oftentimes when we imagine the life that we would lead if we had unlimited money, it actually is looking at a life that has unlimited time to do what we love.
I think it's really interesting is I think we tend to, especially in the beginning of building our careers, we tend to devalue our time, energy, and attention. We tend to not think of it as valuable. And I'm not saying, become a $500 per hour coach right outside the gate, but really finding your right range. And sometimes that takes time. Like I talked about last call, when I was in my wounded, traumatic state, I was charging $150 an hour after being a coach for 16 years. But that was what the value I had on it. And over time, I found the right amount that feels good to me.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what that is now, experiment and play and make awful mistakes and then trip over your feet and then apologize and then go back. I mean, that's really where you find it. It's not in the theoretical, it's in the doing.
Yeah, it's so in the doing. And something I like to sort of geek out about is I really see when your time, your energy, and your full attention and your best attention come together, that's when your superpowers really get to come to play. It's like, and our superpower is priceless. And the income that we make allows us to, I believe that income and money is the stair step that allows us to spend more and more time in flow state and in a higher creative state, essentially.
Hmm.
So it's, and at the same time, money, again, is the language of existence, to some extent, existence and civilization. So using money as you said, like the right amount of money for you could be the amount of money that allows you to live, to be of service. So I hope I made sense. I went off like a little weird.
No, we got it. It's a foundation. And
Yeah.
just to honor time, we have about 10 more minutes of the presentation and then Q&A. So I'm watching that for you. And also, if you have questions, you want to throw them in there for the Q&A that starts in 10 minutes, please pop it into the chat.
Yes. I love questions, just so everyone knows. Okay, we're going to move to the next slide. And we can, if anyone has questions on this, please feel free. So I created something, 5 steps that are really what I and also Allie would consider to be sort of best practices that you can do right now that might help you increase. I don't want to say this blanketly, but like could make you more money right now. And it also requires that the work, the kind of like, it's not just the ayahuasca, you got to do the work. So this is the ayahuasca. There will be some work. Okay. These are fun. The first one we already did, own what you actually need. This is I would even invite you all to go back later today and like sit with each of these and just really notice what comes up for you, whether it's journaling or just contemplating. But each of these go really deep, and we're only going to be able to stay on the surface. So own what you actually need. That 100% responsibility for what you need. And also not setting a boundary with the part of you that would come in and say, you don't actually need that. So I invite you to really deeply own it. Step 2, this time I put crystal clear, because this is an area that I think we can be wishy-washy about, and this takes time, this takes years, and this evolves over years. But get crystal clear on what you offer. What are the results that you offer people? Or if it's a product, what does your product do? Help people with. But it's that crystal clarity on what you're offering and what someone would pay money for. And I always like to add in the superpower thing, because I think that helps sometimes to tune us to our uniqueness in this, because especially when you're something like a coach, it can feel like you're one of many people saying the same thing in the online world. And so connecting to that unique offering, that unique superpower that you bring to your offer, I think is a really useful sort of add-on to this step.
And if I could add to this, there's a lot of, this is something I talk about Morgan, my wife, a lot, because, we're so deeply entwined, and I'm watching her process, and she often stops herself because she's like, oh, I have this idea, but I saw this person's already doing it. Doesn't want to say it. She doesn't really say it like that. That's how I hear it in my head. It's just like, like it's already been done. I'm just like, okay, there's 7 billion people in the world. This one person's not going to be able to handle all of them. And even if you're helping 1 to 10 or 15 or 100 people, don't you think it's worth it? And she goes, yeah. But, it really is. It's like we have this, I don't know what it is, some fear of someone else is doing it or not being unique or not being the first. It's like everything I do is just replications of things my teachers have taught me and things my clients have taught me. So, I've been doing this for 20 years. Everything I say, I probably heard somewhere, combine 7 things to create it, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's not a lot of new information out there. It's how you package it. It's how you market it, but really who you are in relationship to it. Your own flavor of offering that service people are going to buy mostly that over the service, if that makes sense. And when you believe in your worthiness of it, that's what they're going to buy.
Yeah. And I find, at least for myself and what I've seen in many clients, is underneath that, what if someone else is doing it? Or, well, I sort of want to do this and I sort of want to do that. When you're not clear underneath that, there's normally the residue of whatever not enough story is still living in your system. Like either there won't be enough resources or I'm not enough. And so, that's an opportunity to coach yourself or get coached at that place and dig up whatever is left of your not enough story.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of it for good. Or at least don't let it drive. So the third step is unhide your resources from yourself. This is a weird one. This is might rub you a little bit the wrong way, but you might have a retirement account. You might have an awesome credit score. You might have wealthy parents. You might have that, trust fund or stocks from your grandparents. You might even have a skill that's going unused. And so this is one of those areas where we unhide our resources from ourselves to remind ourselves of the abundance we have available to us. And resources can look like friends who are talented. Resources can look a lot of different ways. But one thing we tend to do is pretend we have to do things all on our own, or pretend that we can't think about that money that we have saved. And sometimes you're at a place in your business where the best thing you can do is invest your savings or take out a business credit line and invest in your business and go to the next level. That requires certainly some preparation and forethought. But one thing that's true is that when we're really not aware of all the resources we have available to us, we tend to make decisions where we're playing small and we're not playing to the actual level of potential we could be playing. And so I said this is a weird one because sometimes when people hear the word credit or parents or whatever it is, it's like it brings up all the generational stuff, all the stuff we were taught. And I know, also being from a Jewish family, I literally was like basically taught credit was a sin. And then I had my eyes open to the fact that like most people who run a business have a credit line. So how is credit a sin if that's how you run a successful business? I started to be like, So that was just my own personal journey and my own familial upbringing. But this one, everyone has sort of different challenges around. And it also may not be relevant. You may totally understand your resources. And so then I would celebrate you for understanding that. Anything you want to say, Robert? Cool. So
You're good.
4 is sort of related to that, which is quit sending subconscious failure signals. So I say this with a grain of salt, but if you're holding on to a job, a side hustle that you hate doing, and you keep showing up and you keep doing it because you don't let go of it because you don't trust that you're actually going to create something of value, and it's taking up time and energy and attention away from your business, it might be time to quit that and send yourself a trust signal versus a failure signal. And that's a big example. There are lots of other ways in which we make decisions that are betting against ourselves versus betting on ourselves. And this is not to say put yourself in a precarious position where you're going to wonder where you get your next meal. But this is to say, notice where you're betting against yourself and see if you can stop betting against yourself. Or see if you can take some steps to stop betting against yourself. Because every time we do this, even though consciously we want to succeed, every time we act upon our failure, we're sending that signal to our unconscious. We're sending that signal to our body that we're not going to succeed. And I think this one has been a big one for me to overcome in my entrepreneurial journey. And to also ask myself, what's truly the worst thing that can happen, Ariel? Is it really a life or death situation? Or are you going to be okay? Can you say no to this meeting, this opportunity? And then the final one, which really goes along with that, is freeing up time, energy, and attention for your business. So this one's powerful. Sorry, got a Valentine's Day text. This one's powerful because when we free up time, energy, and attention for our business, magic happens. It really does. And it's very practical. Why? We're putting more time, energy, and attention to our business. We're doing more things. We're moving things along a little faster. And we're also pouring our love into the business. And so, again, it's not to say rip the rug out from under you, but time, energy, and attention is the magic sauce. So we're going to roll because I know I want to leave time for questions.
Yes.
But if there's questions about this, come back to it. I'm also going to be sending out the PowerPoint, so you'll have these to review.
Yeah, we have a Google folder where we'll have it all accessible. So
yeah.
All right. So planning for trippy.
Yeah.
Hello.
We'll just finish by saying the future is complex.
Yes.
We don't know what will happen, what externalities will hit us as a humanity. So investing is also part of the personal finances conversation. And the lens that I come from as a millennial, as somebody who has a lot of future hopefully ahead of me, is that I may not be able to invest the way that my parents taught me to. It may not be the same world that they grew up in. And so some principles that I follow is to prioritize myself as my number one appreciating asset, and that includes my health. I get clear, and part of it is getting clear on what it really means at any given moment to have enough to live a great life as compared to $90 million. For some people that might be their enough amount, but in general, what is really enough? When I really think to investing in assets, it's what is the asset that will serve your highest service or creative potential?
Beautiful.
And if you're going to be investing in stocks, is watching stocks your highest service and creative potential? Is paying attention to the stock market? That might be part of it. It might not. But to just trust a wealth advisor without doing your own research may also not be the right decision for you. And then the final piece is really remembering what true wealth actually means to you. So those are some fun tips. Again, you'll get this PowerPoint. And if you want to go further with Eyes Wide Open, we've got an awesome offer for you guys. We sell our Money Map program at $1,500, which is a DIY program. And we're going to give it to you guys for $333 if you want it. And the sales page is here and the code is here. So if this is interesting to you, it's an awesome financial planning tool. It's the thing that I found that led me to this job, the Money Map. And it was just perfectly resonant with, and it really goes deep into everything we talked about today. And so that's our offer to you guys. And we're going to go to questions.
Just one thing about the offer. I want to just really be clear about this. Like, I know most people in this mastermind are not with a lot of abundance, most of you. And so I really asked every presenter to come up with a program that is on the lower end on purpose to take care of your nervous systems. And this is a pretty outstanding offer. At the same time, it's just an offer. Like, we just want it to be an offer because it's a great tool. I don't know. I want to make sure that everyone feels right in the connection to offers around this mastermind.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I kind of ran through it quickly and I felt that energy of like, it's here. If anything that I've said today resonates with you to the point that you want it, going deeper on it will do something for you in your business. You just have that intuition. And as Robert said, it's just an offer. And we also covered a lot today. So
yeah,
there's a lot to ingest.
All right, let's go through a question. So Esther asked, can you share any mental shift exercises to redirect ourselves towards abundance when we feel the opposite?
Well, one offer I would offer right away, and I'm just going to try to unshare my screen. I don't know if there's a way to do that. There we go. Stop share. One thing that I would suggest is immediately not trying to shift anything about those moments where you're sort of feeling stuck in fear or stuck in scarcity. I feel that like when we try to shift ourselves into abundance, we're activating the part of us that actually stresses our system out, as compared to welcoming the fear, letting the fear show up, breathing with it, and then inviting another truth also to show up with it too. And be in that space until it sort of naturally dissipates, because emotions like that come and go and they wave. And so I would say the biggest hack I'd have is really to just welcome and witness, but not be driven by.
I totally love that. And I would add after that, not before, but after that, when you look at where you are and then you look at where you want to get to, and you think I'll never get there. Well, getting there is 1,000 steps or 10,000 steps or 87 steps, whatever it is. So for me, when I look at I've been in some really intense situations around money. I mean, I built a company that we were constantly in cash flow challenges. I mean, like for years, waking up and looking at my phone and seeing if a bank account's in the red. And I got into the practice of, okay, what's the next positive step? What's that one small action? What's the cut or the new money? Like, get creative. And if you can focus on the one step, then the fear of the journey isn't as scary. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. The not focusing on the top of the 14er that you're trying to climb.
Right, exactly.
But just get to the next river bend.
Exactly. Tom asks, can you sketch how detailed you are? Can you tell, how detailed are you on top of your private economy? Do you spreadsheet, forecast, or gut feeling, or what is the level?
Great question. So one of my backgrounds is as a researcher and an Excel programmer. So I surely have a very beautifully designed spreadsheet that I calculate and predict and forecast for myself personally, also for the business. And then also within the money map, there's another kind of tool to do that with. And so I do that, but then that's about 50% of the math for me. The other 50% is gut feeling and intuition and trusting. So sometimes, I have what I've calculated for myself is a general sense of how much spending money I have per week. And then I have that general sense in my mind, but I don't actually budget on the penny or the dollar.
Which comes back to the marriage of the two. Again, the masculine and the feminine. You have 50% awareness and 50% gut. And I think we can go crazy with over analyzing. As much as I'm a math geek and a shout out for the masculine in the world, it can be overused. It can run amok. And so finding that balance, I think, is super important. And I would say if you're let's say you're deeply in the feminine, everything is a mess, you're the ostrich, okay, spend a couple of months more towards the masculine. Bend the paper back to flatten it out. Like just put a little more energy to it. And then when you feel more in control, then find that middle ground, that marriage that works for you.
Yeah. And, just to kind of to speak to the people who are on the ostrich side of the continuum, it's like, even doing something, even just kind of balancing at the end of the month or something can get you, if you take one step at a time. If it's scary to actually look at your finances, just go one step at a time. Maybe look at how you spend in a day, or just in general, estimate in your mind how much you think you're making this month and how much you think you're spending. But I just invite, it's just kind of like building a muscle and titrating, or going, taking it step by step, getting more comfortable. And then if you're on the other budgeting side, it might be actually your practice to go a day without thinking about the budget and seeing what that's like.
Tom also asks, I know energy. It was a long one. Okay, Tom is, I know energy are describing energy to money in a way where some income have different energy than other income. How does that, let me read that again, sorry. I know people describing energy to money in a way where some income have different energy than other income. How does that resonate with you?
I really like that question, actually. I mean, this is one of those things where it's like, I'm from Boulder, so I'm a little esoteric as a human. So try this out and see how this lands for yourself. But it's a very different experience getting paid to do something you love than getting paid to do something you hate, even if it's the same amount of money. And it's like, I'd almost love if we all had this opportunity to experience that. If you got $5,000 in your bank account for something you loved and $5,000 in your bank account for something you hated, and simply notice what both feel like. And one thing you might actually notice is the $5,000, in this thought experiment, essentially, $5,000, you might even feel a little guilt around. Like, how did I get paid for that? I would have done that for free. And so that actually, there might be guilt on that side that you might want to clear, but then you might look at the $5,000 for the thing you hated. And it's like, oh, that was a hard $5,000 to earn. And it's like, but your grandfather who grew up in the Great Depression might have, or parents or whoever who have that ethos might have been like, well, that's what it feels like to make money. It feels like that hard-won thing, that hard-won trophy. And so I definitely believe, I don't think it's the money that has the different energy, but I certainly believe that it's our relationship to how we earn the money. And there's certainly an upper limits thing around earning money with doing things we love that you may also face.
I think we should end right there.
Yeah. So fun talking with everyone today. And
you're amazing. You're really amazing. Just so you know, the offer is a little different. I'm going to post it in the Facebook group for the 333. Kat, I got your note, so that's handled. And wow, just really our gratitude for coming on the mastermind and really impacting us. I thought it was just a beautiful integration of valid, positive information, and who you are really came across. And so thank you just for bringing all of you to this really challenging topic.
I love this challenging topic.
That comes across, and that's why it's so passionate and beautiful. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you all. I didn't obviously get to connect with all of you, but I feel connected with all of us being here. And I guess do you mind sharing my email, Robert, as well?
I don't mind.
Yeah, I'm here. If there's any follow-up questions that you didn't get answered, I'd be happy to answer them via email.
Okay. I will post the link to the special, the code, and her email address. And Kat is part of the group. She's doing the mastermind. and her email will be available. There'll be no shortage of ways to hook up with these amazing people. And I think that's good. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you so much for being part of this mastermind. It's such a great feeling, such a magical experience so far. And so it's surpassing my energetic feelings around it. So thank you for bringing what you are to this group. All right. Go off.
Bye, everyone. Have a
Make some
great
money.
day.
Have some fun. Find yourself. All
Yeah.
right. Bye.
Bye.